The government was going to reopen an abandoned tunnel, but suddenly the operation ceased, and a lot of people go missing in the tunnel. A female reporter was curious about going into the abandoned tunnel to find out what happened, but the sight before her eyes stunned her. Hello everyone, welcome to Movie Night. Today I want to tell you about thriller film adapted from real-life events, The Tunnel. Due to the long drought that seriously affected people's lives, the New South Wales government has come up with a solution, which is to connect an abandoned reservoir hidden within the railroad tunnel using advanced water recycling equipment to meet the water demand. Despite the fact that hundreds of people commute using the subway station near the tunnel every day, no one realizes that the water source the government is proposing is just right under their feet. Everyone was just happy that they would soon have plenty of water again. But then the project came to an abrupt halt after only a short time of progress, and the government did not give any explanation nor any reason. As a journalist, it is in Natasha's nature to seek out the truth. Any little thing that sounds fishy will make her eager to find out more. Moreover, this is an important matter of water resources for all the people. While surfing the internet, she came across a video that shows a group of young people were deliberately destroying the abandoned tunnel. But strangely, at the end of the video, one of the boys disappeared from the tunnel. The journalist's intuition makes her believe that there must be some secret hidden in the tunnel, and she definitely will not let go of this precious opportunity for exploration. So, she dragged along Stalker, the cameraman, and Jim, the radio guy, into the mission. During the investigation, they learned that the abandoned tunnel was previously a shelter for many homeless people. Aside from that, there are also a lot of homeless people who have gone missing inside the tunnel. In order to get a more accurate lead, Natasha and her gang even chased the Minister of Water Resources to get more information about the incident, but the other party has remained silent and evasive, don't want to reveal anything about the incident. So, the persistent Natasha managed to find a homeless man who used to live in the tunnel and wants to conduct a proper interview. At first, the homeless man's replies normally, but when Natasha asked about the missing persons, the homeless man suddenly lost control and seemed very distressed. After seeing the homeless man's reaction, Natasha decided to lead the team to go deep into the tunnels to investigate further. However, because the tunnel has now been completely sealed off, even though she asked for help from her friend, she still can't get a permit. Moreover, she also tried to bribe the guards, but nothing works out. In the end, she had no choice and decided to use her own way to create a new path forward. She found a broken iron gate, break the chain, and led the group to sneak into the tunnel. The mission has a total of 4 people, include Natasha, Jim, and Stalker. There is also Peter, who is in charge of cinematography. They went in the tunnel and found out that it was really dark and cluttered. Although Peter got a map of the tunnel, but the tunnel was much bigger than they had thought, so the map did not help much at all. Luckily, they had all the equipment and enough light sources to continue the shooting, because this tunnel was used as an air raid shelter in World War II. They found a lot of things left behind from World War II during the search, includes the traces left by the homeless people who lived in here. Next, they passed through a narrow passage and went to the deeper end of the tunnel and reached the abandoned reservoir mentioned by the government. The size of the reservoir looks at least a kilometer long. During this time, Stalker deliberately messed with the Jim and pushed him into the water, but not long after, something weird happened, because Jim is an experienced radio technician, so the slightest disturbance in the sound will be picked up by him. It just so happens that at the time when Natasha was doing the coverage, Jim heard a lot of noise. At first he thought it was a battery or wiring problem, but after inspecting all of the equipment, the noise still persists. This made everyone to feel a bit nervous. After all, the tunnel is so dark and quiet. So, as soon as Natasha finished her coverage on the reservoir, the group immediately moved to a different location. They arrived at an abandoned bell room, and the space is so big that when Natasha hit the bell, it produced a lot of echoes. In order to get the best shot, Jim decided to record the sound of the bell in the next room alone while Natasha ringing the bell in order to eliminate those noises and echoes. However, right after Natasha finished ringing the bell, a terrifying roar suddenly burst out from the next room where Jim was in. After sensing that something was wrong, the 3 of them immediately rushed over, and when they arrived at the next room, Jim had disappeared. At first, Natasha thought that the boys were just pulling a prank to scare her, but after she listened to the audio recordings on the radio, she realized that Jim has been attacked. In order to find Jim, they scurried around in the dark tunnel, and as they were going back to the bell room to get back the equipment they left behind, they were shocked to find out that all of their equipment were gone. The 3 of them are completely devastated because the only light source they had left was the camera light in Stalker's hand, so they must now stay together and cannot separate from each other. Otherwise, there is a high risk they will encountering some kind of danger. Just when they stopped to discuss where Jim could be, There was a sudden noise coming from not far away. Sensing that it was probably Jim's distress signal, the three of them immediately rushed over and reached a room barricaded by iron sheets. But Jim is nowhere to be found. After checking the room with the light, the three of them found a huge blood stain on the wall, and next to the blood-soaked chair there is a flashlight under which belongs to Jim. After realizing that the Jim may have been wounded, all of them felt terrified, especially Stalker because he is very close to Jim and he blames on himself for things happen on Jim. However, before they could finish feeling sorry for themselves, Natasha found out that another small night vision camera gone missing. After looking around, they found the night vision camera was left on the ground. But then Natasha said she didn't put the camera in this location, so they checked the playback, only to see a horrible scene recorded. The video showed that while they were in the room, terrified of the blood on the walls, the night vision camera actually began to shift up and quietly recorded them from behind. Just when they decided to leave the room, the camera was suddenly dropped. At the same time, a black shadow also flashed past the camera. After watching the footage, Peter couldn't stand it anymore. To ensure that no more harm is inflicted on them, he insisted everyone to leave this horrible tunnel immediately. Although Natasha and Stalker still can't let go of Jim, but they had no choice but to follow Peter's direction. Just as the three of them were walking towards a long corridor, there was a sudden movement in front of them. Worried about the incoming danger, Peter immediately dragged everyone to hide and turn off the lights. They then found out that it was the staff they tried to bribe. They told the staff about the disappearance of the Jim, but after hearing the news, the staff immediately asked the three of them to follow his lead to get out of the tunnel ASAP. Then they rush forward without looking back. But just as the staff member reached a corner, something suddenly appeared next to him and dragged him away. All of them were terrified that they immediately ran backward and turned off the lights. They hide in a small room, not daring to make a sound as they feared that the noise would lead the killer back to them. Through the night vision camera, they found that the room was full of corpses. Seeing that this place is not suitable for hiding, the three of them decided to leave to find a better way. But after realizing they could not find a safe way out, Peter suggested that everyone should find a safe room and stay put while waits till the rescue come to them. After all, they are shooting for the TV station. They bound to know what's happened, but these words made Natasha stuttered, because as it turns out that there was no filming assignment at all. Natasha just wanted to film the tunnel, so she made up a story in order to get all the guys to join her. Peter was momentarily stunned by what being told by Natasha, unable to hold back his rage anymore. The two began to fight and Natasha's voice gets louder and louder. However, there are no use in fighting as they can only save themselves now, so they decided to look for an escape route. After circling around, they came back to the reservoir area. Under total darkness, they spotted Jim in the middle of the pool through the night vision camera, and his eyes seemed to have been gouged out. Suddenly, a monster with glowing eyes and long hair appeared behind the Jim and started gnawing at the blinded Jim in front of the three. This scene is so terrifying that Natasha could not help but give out a cry, and the monster just happened to hear it. The monster turned its head and found the three people piled up on the corner and immediately pounced on them. The three, terrified and start running for their life. Fear of being caught by the monster, they sprinted like a bullet. In the meantime, Stalker is still carrying the heavy camera. After watching this, I really have to praise him for his dedication. And just like that, the three of them arrived in front of a wall, where they heard the sound of vehicles passing through from the other side of the wall. Now they know that they are just next to the road tunnel. Natasha began to scream for help, but the walls were so thick that no one outside could hear her scream, and her screams left clues to the monster which would let it know where they were. After realizing that she had screwed everyone, Natasha regret for everything she has done. She began to listen the plan of the Peter and follow everyone to find a way out. After a lot of struggle, they finally found a small passage. Peter asked Natasha and Stalker to go up first while he provides support from below. But just when Peter was about to climb up, the monster suddenly dragged him away from behind. After hearing the scream from Peter, Stalker immediately held the camera and rushed over to him and shined the camera light toward the monster. This scared the monster and made it run away. It was at this moment Stalker figured out that the monster was afraid of light. After the monster ran away, they immediately pulled up Peter. Not dare to rest for even 1 second, the three quickly escape. But the luck is not on their side, as after they running for a long time, they eventually ended up in a place that was actually a dead end. After some careful inspection, Natasha found that the debris in the corner was breakable, so they shifted things around and found an exit path. But what creeped them out was this room is actually filled with human eyes collection. It seems that this monster has a terrible fetish for collecting eyeballs. Right at that moment, the light suddenly went out and they quickly replaced the camera with new batteries. Right after they fixed the camera and turned it on, They found that the monster was here too. During the panic, Natasha got separated from the group. She only had a night vision camera in her hand and only can rely on the night vision camera to find her way around in the darkness. She heard the sound of cars driving by, which means that the traffic tunnel was next to her. But to avoid being discovered by the monster, this time she did not shout. As she was walking down the stairs in horror, the monster suddenly appeared in the night vision camera's lens. The monster pounced on her and dragged her into the reservoir, trying to drown her alive. At that very moment, the Peter and Stalker heard the noise from the reservoir area. They immediately rushed over with the camera lights to scare away the monster. After the monster flee away, they quickly dragged Natasha out from the water. After this last encounter, the three finally managed to escape from the abandoned tunnel and back to the world of light. But because Peter suffered too much injury before help arrived, Peter already passed away. After this incident, the Natasha resigned from her job as a journalist, while Stalker still remains as a photographer. But Jim is still missing and his family members has been waiting for a reasonable explanation from the authority. But the police hastily closed the case due to lack of evidence, and the film just ended just like that. Maybe because the film is based on real events, that makes people more afraid when watching it. But of course Natasha is quite an asshole. Well, that's it for this video. Thank you for your time. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment.